Welcome everyone to this week's episode of Founders Unfiltered. I'm Mazin and I have with us Prashant, the co-founder of EaseMyTrip. So Prashant, we'd like to start off with talking a bit about early influences in your life and how they shaped your career choices. So can you tell us a bit about uh, your journey early on?
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me on the show, Manis. We live in Delhi. I grew up over here in a very modest family. Went to a regular school. I was mostly into sports, very little into studies. And but for 2 years of 11th and 12th, I chose to study more than do sports, and that's how I got into IIT Madras. And afterwards, I got a campus placement to work in US directly from the college. So my very first job was in Richmond, Virginia, as a business analyst in Capital One Bank. So I chose to go over there, and I worked over there for that bank and then some other bank afterwards for about 3.5 years, and then moved back to Delhi to join EaseMyTrip along with my brothers who started about 9-10 months ago. So that's the starting part of our life. What influenced us is that my father has been a coal trader all his life. We are on the humble side on the background ways, but seeing him work and run his own company helped me decide that that is probably the path which I would want to take eventually. So for me, to work in the US was a moment in the blip where I knew that it's just a couple of years and then I'll have to get back to India and start something of my own.
And you said you joined your brother, so he started a few years before you. What was kind of the...
So two of my younger brother, Nishant and Rikant, they actually started a small-time travel agency called as Duke Travel Agency.
Okay.
And they ran the Duke Travel Agency for about a year, and then later on realized what are the pain points a travel agent goes through, which could be sorted by technology. And that's how EasyMyTrip came into life. EasyMyTrip started. It's a B2C brand. It's a consumer brand right now. But for the first 3 years, we were purely focused on solving pain points of a travel agent. So we entered into this business as a B2B business, but then now 95% of our business is B2C business.
Would love to dive a bit more into that. What are some of those pain points that your brothers observed, I guess, early on?
Yes. So the pain points were actually pretty crystal clear. As a travel agent, we ourselves needed to put money in 10 different airlines. There were about 9 or 10 different airlines at that time. We needed to put money in each of their account, and they would give 3 to 4% commission. That time we realized that hey, it's making us keep a lot of capex. So the idea was, what if we go to travel agent and say that hey, we have aggregated all airlines on one particular platform, and all you need to do is just put money in EasyMyTrip, and you will get slightly better commissions. Instead of 3 to 4%, you may get 5 to 6% commissions from us. Because we are aggregating a bunch of you and we are making business easier for the airlines. So this is how we went around, and we met about 300-400 travel agents, got their order confirmation, and then we went to the airlines and told them that hey, we have substantial amount of business with us. Why don't you give us better commissions and connectivity? We will do it via technology. So the plan worked. Airlines gave us better commissions because we were aggregating a bunch of them. And travel agent loved us because now they only had to put 50,000 rupees in totality instead of putting 50,000 rupees in each airlines. So the business worked in that sense. And for the first 3 years, we were not fighting against the big giants, which all had raised tons of money. MakeMyTrip, ClearTrip, Yatra, Ibibo, they all had raised a lot of money. So for us, it came out as a very good surrogate way to enter the business without having to fight with them. So for the first 3 years, we just purely focused on technology. We did most of our sales ourselves. And then, we focused on operations, and we focused on building relationship with the airlines and the hotels for the first 3 years. And that got us our feet off the ground. And then about 3 years later, we decided that, hey, we want to start seeing what we can do in B2C side. So that is exactly when earlier it was just agents.easemytrip.com, where travel agents needed to log in to book their flight tickets. But in year 2011 or so, we decided that, hey, we would want to try our feet and see what we can do in B2C side. And that's how the B2C journey began. And right now, 95% of our business is B2C, which is consumer business.
It's an amazing transition. And, our topic for this week's episode is making a bootstrap unicorn. And, somewhere along that journey, you mentioned that a lot of your competitors as well were well funded. You made that transition from B2B to B2C. Did the thought about fundraising ever come up?
As soon as I moved back in year 2008, late 2008, I did happen to meet 3 or 4 VCs. I made a special trip to Bangalore to meet 3 or 4 VCs to tell them about what we are planning to do, how we are planning to use the money, how we're planning to grow. But unfortunately, we could not convince them just because they thought that the travel industry is pretty well saturated, where 4 or 5 people were already funded. So while our plans were different, we wanted to go B2B, right? But nonetheless, the argument from the VC side was very valid at that time. And the argument was that, hey, B2B is going to be over because eventually travel agents are not going to be doing business. And for B2C, you're already too late. There are too many players already out there. So, you can't argue with their argument. It totally makes sense. But our point was that we just want to launch ourselves using B2B way, get our feet very strong in the ground, and then probably pivot to B2C. But nonetheless, we couldn't convince them. And I remember that immediately after a couple of meetings, I decided to meet travel agents in Bangalore and stop meeting VCs. I thought that I may as well use my time better since I'm over here and meet travel agents and try to convert few while I'm over here. So immediately we stopped, shining our pitch decks and all, and we never looked back. Honestly speaking, only VCs had approached us in year 2014, 15, 16. We never approached VCs afterwards for EaseMyTrip.
That's fascinating. Would love to talk a bit about profitability and how you guys have managed to maintain such a lean cost structure in such a competitive industry.
So let me actually even begin with how did the transition happen from B2B to B2C? So we were just playing around in year 2011. We opened up ourselves for the regular consumers where anybody could come and make the booking. See, the base engine remained the same. Whether travel agent is booking or customer is booking, it's not that different. It's just that travel agent has a login system and has a wallet, while customer need not have a wallet. They could just pay via card and get that transaction and be done with that. So the base engine remained the same, and hence we could utilize this entire same technology while we were shifting from B2B to B2C. And mind you, at that time in year 2011, we were doing business of 200 to 300 crores. So it wasn't like we actually grew pretty well in the first 3 years itself because the offering was very, very solid. The pain point was very real, and we were doing business of 200 to 300 crores. Now, at that time, had there been a VC on our board, I'm 100% sure nobody would have allowed us to pivot to B2C. Nobody would have allowed us.
It's almost a blessing in disguise. Right?
It's a huge blessing in disguise because, see, as an entrepreneur, our job is to look for a decade. For a VC, it might not be that way. I'm sorry, but I have to say that way. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So for me, for us, we were very clear that we want to try B2C because we could also eventually see that the travel agent might become obsolete in flight business. So with that thought process, we decided to give it a try. And the idea at that time was that, hey, everybody else is charging convenience fees, which comes at the very last page of the booking. Now, for us, we felt like we don't need to charge convenience fees because, see, anyways, we were getting 7 to 8% commissions from the airlines at that time, and we were passing on 6% to the travel agent while keeping only 2% for ourselves, right? Now, imagine for every booking which was happening on B2C, which is consumer booking, we were not giving any commissions to them. So for us, profitability soared immediately as we turned from B2B to B2C because the commissions which we were getting were still the same. But now we don't have to give discounts to consumers as much as we were supposed to give to the travel agents. So for us, we did not even feel the need of charging anything additional over the top of what we were getting from the airlines as commissions. So for us, it just came very naturally to charge convenience fees and grow from there onwards. So that's how the business began.
And that sort of became your USP which is fascinating. No convenience fee, which is something that obviously resonated with a group of people. But I kind of wanted to understand that transition a bit more. How did you get the word out there? Obviously travel agents knew who you were. You built
we didn't.
B2C
So
game.
I'll tell you, our growth graph is actually very, very different than most of the VC funded companies you would see. For the first 3 to 4 years, I would easily say that we were not growing more than 15 to 20% per annum on a smaller base, on a much smaller base, right? We were growing at 15 to 20% per annum, which was not sufficient. Like any VC would have told us, or any external person would have told us that it's a mistake, just shut it and grow and focus on your B2B part, because we weren't growing for the first 3 to 4 years. Yeah, but for us, it was just like anything additional. We continue to focus on our B2B part while that was just growing the way it is, primarily by word of mouth. Now, from year 2016 onwards, from 11 till 15, the growth was very minimal. From 2016 onwards, there has not been a year, barring the COVID year, where we did not grow by more than 50% on our B2C side. So, wow. And honestly speaking, I cannot give you a pinpoint reason why 2016. I cannot.
It just happened. Huh?
It's a tipping point. There's something more than what meets the eyes. When certain amount of people have figured out that this is a better place to book your website, book your flight, because it's just cheaper, because they don't charge convenience fees. Eventually, it starts snowballing. And from 2016 onwards, we have not seen a single year where we have not grown by more than 50%, despite no changes in marketing strategy, despite no changes in product. Of course, we kept making product better, but the core offering was the same, which is no convenience fees, and which continued to catapult.
What was the marketing strategy? Were you putting ads out there saying that there was no convenience fee, or
so I'm going to be a little bit contradictory over here. Put together in last 14 years of our existence, we have spent less than 60-70 crores on marketing. Okay, while the industry leader spends anywhere between 1,000 to 2,000 crores every year. So that's the stark difference, where we have spent 70 crores put together, and our competitors spend between 1,000 to 2,000 crores every year on marketing. So there's very little.
You're not competing on Google keywords as you are doing any.
Yeah, so we weren't. And I'll also tell you, initially, honestly, the years where we marketed less, we saw ourselves grow faster. It's very contradictory. And I have a hypothesis why. My hypothesis is basically, if I go and beat my drum saying that I don't charge convenience fees, then why would people spread that word of mouth if it's a public information? People will only spread the word of mouth if it's not public information. And it gives people a chance to come out smarter in a party, in a conversation, because they know something and their friends don't know.
Yeah.
So, and
there's a reason for them to talk about it, right?
That's
fascinating.
So if I had done TV advertisements, and we had some money in our bank account, even we were bootstrapped, after 4 or 5 years, we did make some money, right? To create one TV advertisement. But we decided to not to, because we just realized that, hey, by not talking about us ourselves, we are giving opportunity to people to talk about us. So, because why would you talk about a company if they themselves are advocating what they do? And then if I am advocating myself, people are not going to take it seriously. If I tell I don't charge convenience fees, people are going to think that, hey, you might be charging something else, right? But if your friend is telling you that they don't charge convenience fees, then you'll believe them.
Actually believe it.
Yeah. So my marketing strategy was very simple: to wait and watch.
Love it. Wow, just trying to think. So you have this hypothesis, right? And you keep saying that this is a hypothesis that you have. Did you try to measure it? Did you think about how do you quantify it, or?
So I'll tell you what we measure these days a lot. To be honest, my memory is a little bit blurry on what all we used to measure then. But there has been certain things which we have been measuring very constantly. And one of them is our repeat transaction rate. We focus very little on any other metrics than this metric, which is the repeat transaction rate. I'll explain what my repeat transaction rate is and how do we measure it. My repeat transaction rate is 85.98%. And I'll explain what does that 85 point, that's the number right now, 85.98%.
Okay.
What does this number mean? Supposedly you have used EaseMyTrip in this year. What are your likelihoods to use EaseMyTrip again, at least once in the next 2 years? Is what I say as repeat transaction rate of my company. And so the likelihood of you reusing EaseMyTrip at least once in the next 2 years is 85.98%. Now, this numbers makes so much sense to us. If this number is up, that means we are doing our job right. Our prices are better. Our services are better. Everything which customer wants is better. If this number goes down, we know that we are screwing up somewhere bad. So this is one constant number which we measure. And honestly speaking, this number encapsulates almost everything we do for us.
Wow, that's interesting. So you're not looking at like, number of bookings per day or incremental bookings?
See, all those are there, all those part are there, but this is the holy grail for my company, my repeat transaction rate. So after the listing, we thought that we are going to get a lot many more users, which we did by being listed in India. And we thought that our repeat transaction rate might drop. But honestly, we are also a bit surprised that my repeat transaction rate a couple of years ago was 83%, which is 85.98% right now. So as you gain more incremental users, it's bound to create a little bit decrementality in your repeat transaction rate, but that's not what we are seeing. So we are pretty excited about it.
That really is exciting. And, just kind of thinking about it, when you talk about it kind of decreasing in efficiency, I mean, as you guys gain market share, and you've gained quite a bit of market share recently, even against some of the bigger players, do you think that this changes? I mean, do you see this being a niche, or is this something that kind of scales?
So, I mean, we have been doing it for the last 13 years. Out of being nowhere, we are the second largest right now, a clear second largest in terms of total number of flight tickets which we book. And we believe that we are here to stay. We are here to disrupt the leader as well. For us, it's a matter of 3 to 4 years to become the #1 company in air booking space, and we're looking forward to enjoy the ride, as what we're getting right now.
And one more question about bootstrapping and kind of building a company the hard way, I guess. The impact of COVID, COVID hit the travel industry hard. I'm sure you guys lost money like every other player in the industry. How did you guys make it through, and how did you still manage to stay bootstrapped?
So you'd be surprised to know that this company in last 54 quarters has not seen a red, even in one quarter, including the COVID quarter. We were profitable even in the COVID quarter. So I'll give you some examples of, I'll come to the efficiency part later, that how efficient we are, that even in the COVID quarter, we didn't lose money. Of course, COVID was a bad time. The first COVID wave in a quarter, the first 2 months were completely wiped off, right? The April month and May month, basically there was literally no business. But in June month, we did so much business that for the entire quarter, we made 2 crores as profit. This is how efficient our organization is, that even with just 1 month of business, we made the entire quarter profitable by 2 crores. Now, it's just been 54 quarters that this company has never seen a quarter of a loss. We have grown profitably all throughout. The biggest strength, which I would think is, of course, the growth which we are getting primarily via word of mouth, which is the no convenience fees. And the other strength which we have is in our team structure. There's a very different way by which we hire people, we run our organization. And I talk about it, I've started talking about it very recently. So, for example, currently of like about 450 odd staff we have, almost about 200 or 250 of our staff is in our call center or backend, right? Now, most of our competitors outsource this department. While, in fact, we only know ourselves who chooses to do this as a core. All our competitors have outsourced their call centers. Now, we believe that this is the core functionality of the company, and you cannot give this to somebody else because this is the make and break for the company. I'll explain how. So for every 100 passengers flying or staying in a hotel, anywhere between 12 to 15% cancel. And that is when they need your service. Okay. Now, to our competitors, this 10 to 15% might sound like an anomaly. And that is why they outsource this job to somebody else. While for us, if you look at over a period of decade, then over a period of decade, one customer will probably end up canceling their ticket once. And this is the real time when they're actually trying your service for the first time. So hence, if one negative impression comes, he's immediately going to switch. And that is why we do not leave it on chance and we do not outsource it to anybody. And another great fruitful thing which has happened with our call center is at least 70% of all my managerial staff in my company have graduated from my call center. I mean, let that sink in. My product managers, my quality analyst, my VPs, AVPs of operation, my call center managers, my holiday staff, they all have graduated from being a call center employee. Now, this is a very, very different policy or different way by which we run our business, which is we believe that the people who are closest to consumers are the best product managers available out there. And for us, this is the ones who are outperforming in the call center department. After a couple of years, we make them go through a rigorous training methodology, and then we change their course of careers. This keeps the entire team also extremely motivated to run and outshine in our organization.
No, I mean, that's an incredible insight. I think it's something that, a lot of people don't realize the importance of customer service. And it kind of goes back to your metric, right, of repeat business. If people have a good customer experience, you book 10 times and usually don't need service, but when you need it, that's when you you kind of miss it the most, and that's when you kind of create that loyalty, right?
Correct.
Just going back to kind of how you think about that, do you measure NPS? What metric do you use for your call center agents?
So there is a CSAT and all those metrics. But as I said, that for me, the absolute number which encapsulates everything is my repeat transaction rate, which we measure on quarterly basis. So that number tells you
are evaluated based on that as well. How do you evaluate agent performance?
So the entire organization performance is evaluated on the basis of consumer repeat transaction rate.
And so it kind of trickles all the way down.
We are extremely transactional oriented company. We believe that businesses are done only for two reasons. One is to serve your consumers very well, and two, to do it profitably so you can serve them for a longer period of time. We believe that no VC money, no PE money can substitute your cash flows. VC money, PE money is a great money to solve teething problems, but after a certain point, you must become profitable to serve your consumers for a longer duration of time. That is the core belief of our organization. And hence, almost everything we do, we are measuring on transactional level, because that's where the real meat comes in.
Awesome. And I think there's a good segue into what you think about the travel industry going forward. How are you seeing it evolve? What's the future in the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years?
See, there's no point for me to talk about the pent-up demand, which we already are aware of. You can see the prices for the airlines to go abroad or even domestic for that matter. So the pent-up demand is very real. What I've seen, what has happened post-pandemic is people have started living their lives. I think people are living in the moment. The number of bookings, the average duration of holiday has increased from 3.7 days to 4.2 days. So we are seeing the change in the trend where people are staying for a longer duration. People are splurging on their 4 stars and 5 stars. People are splurging on business class travel. It could be, the reason might have been the sanitation, but now it's just become the daily routine where they ought to use those kind of services. And this is one thing which we think is probably of a permanent change. So that's the short-term outlook which we have, that the travel industry is going through a boom. In fact, our Honorable Minister, Jyotiranand Scindia, also recently said that India has got about 710 airplanes right now for domestic purposes. And every year we are expecting to add 110 to 120 new airplanes from 710 existing every year. We are for the next 2 decades. So imagine 2 decades later, we are going to have 2,200 more airplanes in India. The reason is primarily because India is unlike West or China. In India, 66 more airports are coming up. You cannot say that for any country, So India is a vastly, amazingly great opportunity for travel, because the industry itself is going to grow 5 times in next 2 decades. And we are extremely, and another thing is that the dependency on OTA is only increasing with time. See, 5 years ago, you could have still opened up your desktop or laptop and could have searched 5 different airlines and see whichever you're finding better price, right? But now almost 87% of searches are happening on mobile. Now, how do you open 5 different websites on mobile, right? So the dependence on mobile is only adding fuel to the fire for the OTA industry.
Understand. Now, you made a very interesting point on the increase of travel duration. Is this public data or is this data that you have from your internals?
This is our internal data.
This is internal data. Got it. Oh, that's fascinating. And you expect it to stay that way. I think the way you described it, people living their lives, that's a very good phrase.
Yeah, I think that is here to stay for the next 3 to 4 years. I think the effect of whatever has happened in the last 2 years in pandemic is definitely going to trickle down to how they travel. People are going to stay a lot more in villas, would like to, find a good luxury villa for themselves so that they can be a little bit isolated, this is what they have learned during the pandemic times. Our percentage of business class bookings have doubled up. Our percentage of 4-star and 5-star properties have more than doubled up on our website. So these are the clear indications that the average ticket values are increasing. The expectations of people while traveling are increasing. And in the long term, I could not be more happy and excited about what future of travel would look like.
Amazing. And related to that, what are plans for you guys, specifically given the optimism that you have about the industry? How are you thinking of EasyMyTrip in this new paradigm?
So we are resolved to become the #1 travel company in the world. And, to kickstart that, we are firstly changing ourselves from being a travel platform to travel ecosystem. We are becoming much more than a platform, because travel is one such gambit where you could do everything from starting till the end, and that will only please your customer better, right? I mean, as a consumer, you would probably like it if everything is getting done from one place rather than you have to coordinate with 10 different people. So travel is one such beautiful business where consumers expect you to do everything for them. And to begin with, we are going by the first principles, and we are starting with the travel academy. So starting from travel academy till the end, we want to do everything in the travel space. Our companies, cash flows, profitability is allowing us to experiment in different ways and become more than the travel platform.
Amazing. And do you also see some sort of consolidation happening in the travel industry, or do you think that there are going to be a lot of new players? What's your view on, these new airlines that are starting, general observations about the category?
So every industry goes through a cycle of having a lot of cash and then going through consolidation. It's just the standard way. Now, the travel industry has seen a lot of cash flow come in from VCs, PEs, banks in last decade. And I think the times have come for travel industry for the consolidation phase, where we believe that a lot of players are going to get ruffled up, consolidated, acquired. The ones who are going to survive are the ones who are going to do it profitably, or the ones who are growing really, really fast. So we believe that there is a lot of consolidation upon the card, which we will see in very short duration of time. For the new OTAs, I believe that airlines have to be acceptable to introduce a new OTA. You can only become an OTA if an airline gives you the API. Now, what I've been told in the last 4 or 5 years, no new OTA license was given to anybody. And the reason why I think that's probably happening is because there already are 5 or 6 OTAs. Now, by adding 7th OTA, will airlines book more air tickets? The answer is no. The number of air tickets which they're going to sell is still going to be the same. And except for EaseMyTrip, everybody else is bleeding money. So why would an airline themselves allow a 7th player to come in and make all of us bleed more and finally take the pressure of giving better commissions? So, and also, it requires a lot of human work to interact with the new player, to give them the APIs, to manage their software, they will also be hitting on their servers. All those things happen. So I believe that for new OTA to come, they have to get a license from the airlines, and good luck with that. But otherwise, definitely, I believe consolidation is on the card.
Understand. No, fascinating, and congratulations on all the progress that you've done till date. Just a closing question, which we ask most of our guests. What's one piece of unfiltered advice or feedback you received in your journey as a founder that really changed the way you thought about things? And brutal, honest is better.
I mean, of course, I've received a lot of great advices from various people, but to pinpoint to one, I think it had to be somewhere in the starting part of my journey where, I went somewhere to meet somebody, but then I extended a couple of days just to meet some old friends in that particular city and the town. And then I met an elderly gentleman, and, he's not very known, but, an elderly gentleman told me that, Prashant, why are you over here? I'm like, oh, I was over here for a meeting, and now I'm over here just to meet a couple of my friends and just have a good time. And he told me that, okay, fine. Now, could you have wrapped it up in one day, the entire thing? I said that I may have, but what's the point? He told me that what was my last salary? At EaseMyTrip, there was no salary, right? He asked me what was my last salary, and I told him what was my last salary in United States, right? So he told me to divide that salary by 365 days, and the amount which would come is the amount which at least I should be earning today. And if I'm not, I should try burning that much amount of money to know what is the wastage I have done if I have not really given my 100% today. Right. He told me that, if it is, let's say, 15,000 rupees or 20,000 rupees, whatever that amount is, take that money out and actually burn it to feel the pain of losing that day. Right. And that's when it hit me that, okay, that because when you think about burning that much amount of money, it hits you, right? It hits you very bad. And I realized that, yes, there is a lot of power of my time, and I should be utilizing it much more better than I am probably right now. So I think that advice was very valuable. Not to say that we should not waste our time, because that's also very productive time. Your frontal cortex actually switches when you're actually fooling around, not when you're sleeping. When you're sleeping, your brain is doing a lot of hard work. So your prefrontal cortex only switches when you're just fooling around, you're having a shower and stuff like that. And that is when the real productivity, the real creativity comes. So I'm not saying that he was right in his analysis that I should not have stayed there for another day, but just the power of a day and the value of the day, I realized when I was thinking about burning the money.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Prashant, this was a fascinating conversation. Thanks so much for your time.
No, pleasure is all mine. Thank you, Aviral. Thank you, Manish.